All right, this is how to cut down a metal door. We have a carbide tipped blade, just a framing blade. We have a very basic metal door, and we're making an access door. What you need to do is know the height you need for your rough opening and do your calculations. We are adding 3/8 of an inch to our cut so that we can fold the metal over and have a nice finished edge when we're done. So we are going to just fold it over the foam, and in theory, even if it was an exterior door, you could seal that. This foam has quite a bit of compressive strength. You always want to try and cut down the top of the door if at all possible. Of course, it depends on the type of door you have, but this door has a bottom sweep, we'll call it, that fits into the bottom of the door. And so if we cut down the bottom of the door, we would have to either add a sweep, or we definitely would have to take the filler strip that's down there and reinstall it. But for our purposes, we're just going to cut the top, and that works just fine for us. And again, this is 3/8 of an inch longer than what we would be using, than the actual size of the door. All right, so now we switch to a router. We have this router set at 3/8 of an inch. You know, that 3/8 of an inch really is dependent on what your situation is. We did our calculations here, and the flange was bent over 5/16. We're giving 1/16 for the flange, which is why we're doing 3/8. So when this gets bent over, the actual height will be about 5/16 less than what it was cut at, even though we're routing out 3/8. If you're using a router, don't run into the metal. If you do, as little as possible. And these corners here are bent over, and so it can really catch and could ruin your carbide bit. This is what I was talking about. You don't want your router to catch on this steel. If it just rubs a little bit on this steel, it'll dull it, but it's not the end of the world. It's not going to go through unless you really stay on it for a while. And so we do try and stay a little bit away so we don't cause damage. All right, so we have it routed as good as what we need. All right, so in this particular situation, with these little bent over corners, we have to cut them. I'm just using my reds and my greens. We don't want people putting their hand on top of the door and cutting themselves. So it's pretty essential little part that has to be done is the filing of the actual door. And of course, if you don't want to cut yourself on this while you're doing it, it'd be easy enough to do. You could use a different tool than this. The little hand benders you could use. This is what we're using. And we just are being careful to try to bend it equally. So, I mean, unless you have one that goes the whole way, you're gonna have to do it as a process. You can see now why I talked about cutting it that 5/16 long. That will give us a very nice finished edge. And you could use a regular hammer too, but this has a flatter head, this Mason's hammer. I don't have a sheet metal hammer. I'd be using that. The reason why I feel like we can get by without putting the filler strip back in addition to it being inside, is because this bent over flange will give the top of the door the rigidity, even though the foam technically maybe could get bent, or I should say crushed. It's very unlikely that the top of the door's gonna get crushed when we have this bent over piece reinforcing it. I'm sure if a guy wanted to install this outside and was nervous, it's not like the filler strip makes this waterproof anyway. The filler strip we took out had no sealant or anything. This is a cheapo door. But you could take some low viscosity sealant that could be smoothed out and apply that in between these two. You also could cut it longer and fold it over more if you have the room to play with that. As you can see, it's not complex. You just have to have some know-how, have some desire to tackle something you maybe have never done before. But it's not, there's definitely no rocket science to this. You'll also notice when we cut this off, we didn't put any tape or any thing to protect the metal. It's just primer on here. It got scratched a little bit. We just don't care. If that's something that matters for you, if it's a high enough quality project that you're worried about the primer getting slightly scratched, you can put a piece of tape over it before you cut it. Alright, so that's the door. Again, we'll have to route that out. And now we'll cut down the frame. So we reset the router depth in preparation for this video. If you're a carpenter, you can figure out what depth you need to set things. So we'll just cut this down. We're just using the same saw blade. It's still plenty good. You'll notice I'm just cutting it even with the weather strip in there. And pull the weather strip out. Due to the small size that we're making this access door, you can see that we almost ran into an issue here, but our top jam should cover that. Alright, so there's the top jam. Alright, so as I said, this little routed out part is going to primarily get covered. That just happened because of the height at which we needed to cut our door. Using a stapler here, staple is going to have, think of it as twice the holding power of the little brad nails. Okay, so now we just have to route out this hinge, route out the hinge on the door panel that we cut down, and it'd be ready for installation. So we're just reinstalling these weather strips. I do not have a jig for routing exterior jam, so we just do it freehand with a little block. So we have here the Ryobi hinge mortising jig. Super nice, super handy. I don't think Ryobi makes this particular model anymore, but I have seen what look like the exact same models on Amazon. Just look for hinge mortising jig. Comes with the top bearing router bit, and some of the kits I see also come with a VIX bit for drilling the hinge holes. So nice measure. Of course, to actually have it look and work good, we'll have to have it installed.